Hi everybody, my name is Hannah and this is Pepper and Pine, and today I have a peg doll tutorial to share with you inspired by those fairy wings that you can see there. I'm going to be using this Holland wool felt from A Child's Dream. This is the Spring Blossom collection, and these are the fairy wings that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. This is inspiration for these little trio of peg dolls. So I've got 3 different colors and I want it to match the peg dolls. I also want to show you that I picked up these beads also from the Dollar Tree to match those fairy wings, and I thought that maybe I could use some of them on the peg dolls, but I decided against it. So I am just going to paint all 3 of these peg dolls using my Lyra opaque watercolors. All of the supplies that I'm using today can be found at achildsdream.com except for a couple of them, and I'll point them out in a little while. Alright, so I am just going to give them all about 2 coats of paint in the yellow, turquoise, and purple. Next I'm going to add a little bit of shimmer, and I was debating between the Heidi Swapp Color Shine and this one, Perfect Pearls. And I go for the Perfect Pearls, but it doesn't quite show up as strongly as the Heidi Swapp Color Shine, but it gives a nice little subtle shimmer, and I wanted these ones to be as decorative as possible, just to look like those fairy wings. So I'm going to paint all 3 of those peg dolls, and then I'm going to set them aside and work on the wings. So I'm going through all of these different beautiful spring colors, and I find a yellow, a purple, and a blue that seem to match pretty well. I'm also using this butterfly as a template. This is a paper butterfly that I made for another project, and that video is linked down below in case you're interested in seeing how we did those. But you could also freehand the pattern. It's pretty simple to do butterfly wings. I'm just going to go ahead and cut them out of all 3 colors, and then I want to add a little bit of glitter. So I've got my Martha Stewart glitters, and I only have 3 colors, and I'm going to mix the gold with the white since I don't have silver, and I think that this will kind of be a good compromise because I think that the fairy wings have silver on them, the ones that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. I'm using my Tombow mono adhesive glue, and this is not the best choice. I think using a tacky glue would be far better, but this is what I had on hand in my scrapbook room, so I decided to use this, but you can see how messy it is and how thick it is, and it wasn't really the best choice. I'm going to show you something else a little bit later on. So I'm going to take that mixture and just kind of sprinkle it all on top. I've got this in a little box lid, and then I am just going to shake off the excess, which was really difficult to do because there wasn't many places that I could hold those wings. And I think that's going to look pretty good. So I'm going to set that aside and work on the other 2. Now, it takes a super long time for that to dry, several hours in fact. Now, I got a little bit better with this second one, and of course I'm going to go ahead and add the glitter on top again, and I save the glitter and reuse it so you're not wasting so much of it. And then there's the purple one, and then I'm going to take that excess glitter and just put it back in the gold jar. Alright, so I want to show you an alternative here. These are Stickles glitter glue sticks, and this worked so much better. Now, I happen to have a couple of colors that worked pretty well, but I did not have a blue, so I'm using Studio G. This is, I think, the Michaels brand of glitter glue, and it did not work as well at all. Again, it was more like the glue that I used earlier, but at least the glitter was already included in the glue, so that did make it a lot easier and not as messy. So this might be a good choice if you're working with kids. And again, I just tried to do the same design that were on the fairy wings that we picked up from the Dollar Tree. And then I did have the gold, which turned out the best. The stickles stay a little bit raised. It doesn't ooze all over the place, and it looks really nice when it's done. Alright, so now it's time to work on the hair, and I decide to paint the hair on, but later I'm also going to show you an alternative. And I'm just using brown paint for the purple peg doll. I used a little bit too much water, and it got a little bit runny, and you're going to see a problem that emerges in a little bit. So I tried to do blonde for the one that was in yellow, but the blonde hair just didn't show up, so I added a little bit of brown to that. So that's what I did for that one. And then the black one, oh gosh, it was such a mess. I was using gray paint by accident. Then I use the black, way too much water. It's falling all the way down her back. I really kind of messed this one up, but I'm going to show you how to fix it. Just using a paper towel here just to mop up all of that stuff that came down on her back, and then I'm using a clean brush just to kind of try to mop it up and clean it up, and it does a fair job. It's not great, but it does a pretty good enough job. And then I also remembered that it's mostly going to be covered by the fairy wings anyway, so I didn't worry about it too much. I'm going to give these little fairy dolls sleepy eyes, but you could always just do little eyes that were open, or you could skip the faces altogether. I gave them cheeks and little mouths as well. So here's an alternative. You can actually put hair using the Lamb's Pride wool yarn. I've got the worsted weight as well as the bulky weight. And the bulky weight's a little bit heavier and thicker than the worsted weight. For this project, I think the worsted weight would work better because I don't want to have too much hair on their head because we got the fairy wings in the back and it just kind of competes for space. So I'm just going to wind it around my fingers and trim it down, and that way it's the perfect length for long hair. I will have to give it a trim a little bit later on, but at least this is a good start. And then I'm just going to work my way around the top of the head, starting in the center, and then I'll flip up that hair. Oops, there was a couple of bald spots there that I need to fill in. And then I go around the back and I also flip up each side and just kind of add more and more layers of hair until you don't see any of the head. Now, if you were adding a little hat, then you could go with less hair. So I'm giving her a little trim here, and then she is ready for her wings. Oh wait, she needs eyes first. Of course, you could go without a face. And then we're going to work on the wings. These wings are the ones that had the glitter glue. And then just kind of debate on where to put her hair, and I think that it looks better with most of it in the front with just a few strands in the back. You could play around with this and do a couple of different styles. She also has some bling on the wings. I'm going to show you how to do that in a little bit. Here are the other wings with the glue and the glitter, and even though they had been drying for hours, they were still a little bit tacky in places, so you have to be super careful. I like the way these look quite a bit. It is a little bit more prominent than the blue glitter glue, but I think that the gold stickles and the purple stickles look really good as well. Alright, so I'm dipping into my scrapbook supplies, and I have these little jewels to glue onto the wings just to add a little bit of bling on the other side, since there isn't anything and all of the glitter is on the one side. And I think that's a really nice detail addition. The glue gun works really well for adhering these little gems onto the wings, but again, if you've got children that are younger than 3, then I caution against using so many tiny little pieces with your peg dolls, and just supervise your children if they are young and prone to putting things in their mouth. So the yellow fairy needs a little bling as well, and this time I'm going to use some enamel dots because that is the color that matched those yellow wings, and I think that it's a nice little detail and a little bit of alternative to the other gems, but you could leave these out as well. I think they look really nice, but they're totally optional. So here's a closer look at those 3 fairies. You can see that the wings have quite a bit of glitter. You could just put a little bit on the edges if you wanted to. Now, I really like the way that the purple fairy turned out with the stickles. I think that the stickles were a far better choice when it came to adding some of that glitter to the back of the wings, and I also like them with the hair as well, but you can take your pick and do them either way. I think in the end they're both really charming. Now, if you want to see some of the other peg doll tutorials, I have left a playlist here for you to enjoy, and don't forget that if you want to see what kind of projects we're doing on a daily basis, you can find me on Instagram at Pepper and Pine.